Hey everyone, it's Daniel Brother Barbaros. I decided to nix that last video as the music overpowered my voice. Nobody could hear me, so I'll remake this, and this will be our Microsoft Deployment Toolkit lab setup video. We'll deploy two Windows Server 2022 VMs, a domain controller, and an MDT server. We'll then capture and deploy Windows 10, Windows 11, Server 2019, and Server 2022 images with software, with security settings, and then we will keep those up to date with a WSUS implementation. So, first things first, you're going to want to have space to store those VMs. So, I suggest at least a 500 gig NVMe or SSD, no spindle drives, too slow for this type of environment. So, I've got one set up here, 500 gig virtual machine E drive that's empty, ready for VMs. Okay, that's the first thing you're going to do. Now, second thing, Hypervisor. You can use built-in Hyper-V, or you can use VirtualBox, VMware Player, VMware Workstation. I'm a VMware Workstation person myself. Now, if you're going to do VirtualBox, my suggestion is to download the extension pack as well. So when you go to virtualbox.org, click on download VirtualBox, grab it for whatever host you're using, whether it's Windows, Linux, Mac, and then once that's done, close down VirtualBox and install this extension pack. And this will give you support for USB 3 devices, NVMe drives, as well as Pixie Boot. Okay, and Pixie Boot's going to be important for what we're doing. Okay, VMware Workstation and VMware Player. So if you look at VMware Player, you can download that here. Okay, it's free. Virtual systems on one PC, and then that's your free version. And then the reason I use VMware Workstation is because it allows me to export those VMs and import them directly into ESXi servers. So you can see here Workstation Pro. Now this is of course a little bit more expensive than most. I had a version from school, so you can see if you're upgrading from an earlier version, it drops the price significantly, right? But I had VMware Workstation for Students, and when I grabbed it, Academic Users is what it's called, I had a free version for a Pro, but then if you upgrade it, it was only $59. So that saves you a bit of money, and you can set that up. Okay, and so I have VMware Workstation installed on my machine here. You can see all my tools here. Now that leads us to some tools we're going to need. So first one is going to be 7-zip, because we're going to be extracting a lot of files. So you're going to go to 7-zip.org, and I would suggest clicking on the left-hand side download. I know sometimes the newest version is here, but sometimes it's not. So we're going to want that 64-bit version, download and install that. Then we're going to want either Notepad++, or some people like to use Visual Studio Code if they're used to coding in Visual Studio. So Notepad++, of course, is free. Notepad-plus-plus.org. Click on the top one, and then we're going to use this top 64-bit installer. Okay, and then for Visual Studio Code, you can see here, click on that. You can click download for Windows, the stable build, and you should be good. And then it auto downloads, and you can just install that. That's up to you. Now, very important part, operating systems, right? So where are we going to get our operating systems? Well, we're going to get evaluation versions, and we're going to turn them into full versions later on. So I have these notes here, and I'll span this here so you can see. So we're going to get the evaluations from Microsoft's Evaluation Center. So you can see Microsoft.com/en-us/eval center /download-windows-10-enterprise, and we're going to grab the 64-bit ISO, which is going to look like this when you download it. It's right here. Okay, choose your language. Then at the top, all you have to do is change this to an 11. Click Enter. Please select your Windows 11 Enterprise download. We're also going to choose the 64-bit edition and choose your language. Now we're going to go here to our 2019 server. It's /download-windows-server-2019. Of course, that ISO contains both the data center and standard. So grab that 64-bit ISO there. And the same thing for 2022. You can either copy and paste that, or you just change the last two digits to 2022. Download that, and you'll have this file here. I placed those in their own folders, so I have those for later. Now, the next thing we're going to do, Office or Microsoft 365, right? So I have in my deployment share here, Applications, Microsoft 365 for Enterprise, and you can see I have my folders for when I deploy, but here's my notes, okay? And the Office deployment tool is at microsoft.com/en-us/download/details.aspx (ID equals 49117). So when I paste that here, you can see Office deployment tool. Just click download. It will download this file over here. I'll show you. Looks like this. We're going to right click on that file, 7-zip, extract files, and it's going to give us a folder like this. Okay, and here it is. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to either open a Windows terminal as admin or command prompt. It's up to you. What you can do is you can highlight, copy this, and I'm going to type cmd cd and paste that folder. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type setup. Well, before I do that, sorry, I extracted these files. I'm going to go, I want to get the Office 365 64-bit edition. So I'm going to right click on that. Because we've already installed Notepad++, I'm going to click Edit with Notepad++ or Open with Code. It's up to you. And here's what the file looks like. Now, it's going to have, I'll show you what it looks like. It's going to have these remarks in it. And we're going to remove those remarks from these three lines. Okay? So, enabled equals true, channel current, display level none, except the end user license agreement's true, and auto activate equals 1. So that's all we're going to do. We're going to change. We're going to highlight and delete both the front and back trailing text. Okay. Once we have that done, you click save on that file. Then what we'll do is we'll do setup.exe/download, and then we're going to configuration, press the tab key until you get to the Office 365-x64 XML file. When you press enter, it'll start downloading. It takes a while because it's I think it's over 3 gigs. So when I go in here, you'll see I've already downloaded this one, 3.12 gigs. Okay, so now I've got the setup.exe, the Office folder, and I can delete the rest of the XML files because I'm only going to be using one. And when I install that, it's going to be setup.exe/configure and the name of the file. Now this here just means where the batch file is located. Okay, that's why it says the $!DP0, and then that will install, and we're going to show you how to do that quietly with no batch file window, because I have this one-line Visual Basic script that we're going to run with wscript, and it will run that batch file with no windows showing. So it'll be completely quiet when we install those. Okay, so now you've got your Office. We've downloaded our server 2022. So now let's start up VMware Workstation or VirtualBox or whichever one you're going to use. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to create my first VM. So right click, click New Virtual Machine, Custom, Next. Now you can choose to have ESXi 7, 6.7, 6.5. That way you can export those directly. Since I won't be doing that with these, I'm just going to use Workstation 16.2. Click Next. I'll install the operating system later. Next. We're going to choose Windows Server 2019. Next. DC01. We will be installing 2022, don't worry, but there is no 2022 selection in there, so we just use 2019. This is our DC. UEFI is the firmware type. Just keep it at 2 processors, that's fine. 2 gigs of RAM for a DC is just fine. Click Next, Next, NVMe, Next. Create a new virtual disk, 60 gigs. Store as a single file. Since we're using a 64-bit operating system, we don't have to worry about that. Click Next. Customize hardware. Printer, remove. I hate virtual printers. Click Network Driver. Now, click LAN Segments and click Add. And we're going to name our first LAN segment MDT.LAB and just click OK. Then click on the LAN segment radio box and then drop down MDT.LAB. Click Close, Finish, and boom, there's that one. Now we'll create another one. This is going to be our MDT server. Same thing, server 2019. We're going to call that MDT01. It's going to our E drive, which was our nice clean NVMe drive. This, I'm going to have 2 processors, but I'm going to have 2 cores. That way I have kind of like a quad core, right? And 8192 megs equals 8 gigs. So you can see my host machine has 32 gigs. Make sure that you're using a machine that has enough RAM to support your MDT and WSUS. So there's that. 8 gigs of RAM. Next, next, NVMe. Create new, store as a single disk. This will be our operating system portion. Next, customize hardware. Printer, remove. Now LAN segment, MDT.LAB. Click close, finish. And now we're going to create 2 additional drives. Okay. One's going to be for our deployment share, and the other will be for our WSUS updates. So click down here and add hard disk, next, NVMe, create a new virtual disk. This one's going to be 120 gigs, store as a single file. Next, next, and then click add again, hard disk, NVMe, create a new one, 240 gigs, store as a single file. Next, and finish. So now I have 60, 120, and 240. Those will be our drives for our MDT server. Okay, now I'm going to right click on each of these. I'm going to click on CD, DVD, SATA, use ISO image. We're going to browse to where we downloaded our server 2022 ISO, which I have in my operating systems folder. And I'm going to click open, click OK. Same thing on MDT01. because we're going to do these at the same time, not a problem. Next, we'll go desktop, Prereqs, operating systems, server 2022, okay. And then right here, start up this guest, and it will come up with a press any key, and I'll press the space bar. Let's do the same thing here. to get out of the window, if your mouse gets stuck in there, press the Control and Alt keys on the left side of the keyboard, and you can move it out. Now, when we install the VMware tools, you won't ever have to worry about that because it'll auto go in and out of the window. But as it stands, it'll get stuck sometimes if and you just press those two, the Control and the Alt. Okay, so right now they're loading up to the install screen. Click Next here. Install now. Do the same thing on this one. Next. Install now. It should come up here in a moment with our which version to select. We're going to be using these Windows Server 2022 Standard Evaluation Desktop Experience. Okay, that's the second selection there. We'll be removing the evaluation version here in a little bit, so no worries there. And then you can activate this with KMS, or if you have a Mac key, you can do that as well. But we're going to use a KMS key just to get rid of the evaluation version. I accept the license agreement. Click Custom. You'll see our 3 drives on our MDT server. You're going to select the top one. Next. Same thing over here. I accept. Next. Custom. You'll see our drive. Next. And away we go. So I'm going to pause this. You can pause and come back, and we'll continue from there. Okay, this one's just finishing up. The MDT server restarted. It should get to the screen where it asks you for a administrative password. The password we're going to be using for pretty much everything in this lab is right here. So it's capital P @ SSW0RD. You're going to type that twice, and the reason why is we want at least a 14-character password because we're going to be using secure images later on, and the requirement will be 14 characters. So, all right, these are restarting, and I'll come back as soon as it gets to the logon screen. Okay, so this is where we get to that logon screen. Let's use our password. There we go. Finish on that one. And there we go. And finish there. So they should come to the logon screen. You can press Control-Alt-Insert since we're in the guest operating system. Okay. Log in for that first time. Good. We'll wait for that server manager to come up, and I'll show you some of the things we're going to do. Okay, here we go. So, try managing servers with Windows Admin Center. I'm going to click Don't Show This Message Again. I'm going to go over to Manage, Server Manager Properties. Do not start automatically at logon. Okay. Close that. Same thing over here. Don't show this message. Manage, Server Manager Properties. Do not show this message at logon. And close that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to set some services to auto and some services to on demand. So right click on your start bar and click Windows PowerShell Admin. Okay. I'm going to type CMD because now I'm at an administrative command prompt. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to configure these services. So scconfig MapsBroker start equals demand, which is like saying manual. Okay. DPS start equals auto. MSDTC start equals auto, and the edge update start equals demand. Okay, I can type exit twice and get out of that, and I'll do the same thing over here. So I'm in the CMSC config MapsBroker start equals demand, config DPS start equals auto, config UALSVC start equals auto, MSDTC start equals auto, UsoSvc start equals auto, and then the edge update service start equals demand. Okay, exit, exit, and that'll get rid of those pesky red text when we load up Server Manager. Okay, now in MDT-01, remember we created 2 additional drives, but let's go back over here. So I took care of Server Manager, and now sounds, right? So you see this pesky X on our sounds. Right click, click sounds, click yes, and OK. That'll get rid of that. And we'll have sound. You can disable it if you'd like, but I like to have it on. And then I right click on the desktop, click personalize, click themes, go all the way down to the bottom and click desktop icon settings. I like to have my computer users, files, and network on my desktop, so I'm going to sort those by item type twice, and that should be the nice layout that I like. So right click, like I said, personalize, click themes, down towards the bottom, desktop icon settings, first 3, OK, sort by item type twice. Okay, then so now we have our desktop icons. Now file extensions, right? So double click on this PC, click View, Options, View, and uncheck the hide extensions for known file types. Click OK, and we're good there. We'll do the same thing on our domain controller. View, Options, View, and there we go. Okay, so that's taken care of. Now on our MDT server, like I said, we have additional drives. So you're going to right click on your start bar. You're going to click on disk management, and it should auto populate that we have 2 additional drives. There we go. You must initialize a disk before Logical Disk Manager is going to access it. So you see GPT, good. Click OK. Right click, here's disk 1, our 120 gig. Right click, click new system volume, next. It should come up as the E drive, that's fine. We're going to call this one deployment, next, and finish. Okay, then we'll go down here to the bottom, you'll see another 240 gig unallocated. Right click, new simple volume, next, next. It's our F drive. We're going to just call this one updates. Click next, finish, and now we have our F drive. So if I click on this PC, you'll see 2 additional drives. Okay, good. So we've got those additional hard drives done. Now, by default, Windows sets the Pacific Standard Time because of where Redmond, Washington is, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click our time, click Adjust Date Time, and you're going to adjust to where you're at. So for me, I'm in Arizona, so click. Okay, let's do the same thing over here. Right-click, Adjust Date Time, click, and Arizona. Good. Okay. Now, here's our networking down here. You're going to right-click on it, click Open Network and Internet Settings. Do the same thing on this one. Click Ethernet, change adapter options. Right-click on Ethernet 0, Properties. I'm going to uncheck the IPv version 6. Then I'm going to click on IP version 4, Properties. use the following IP address, and you can see I have the IP address and everything right here. So I'm going to say this is our domain controller, 192.168.1.200. You press the space bar to go through the octets, okay? So our 24-bit mask should fill in. Just press the tab key, 192.168.1, and then press space bar to go to the next octet, 1. And because this is our domain controller, it's also going to be our DNS server. So we're going to use local loopback 127.0.0.1. Okay. And then I'm going to click the advanced button here down at the bottom. I'm going to go to the Wins tab, and I'm going to disable NetBios over TCP IP. Click OK, OK, and close. That's done for that one. Now we'll go over here to our MDT server. Click Change Adapter Options. Right click, Ethernet 0, Properties. Uncheck IPv version 6. Click IPv version 4, Properties. And now we're going to give this one an IP address of .10. So 192.168.1 space 210. It'll press tab. It'll fill in our 24-bit subnet mask. Press tab again. Default gateway is going to be 192.168.1.1. And the same thing down here is we're going to put in our IP address to our DNS server, which is our domain controller as well. Click OK. Go back over there, Properties, Advanced, Wins tab, and disable NetBios. Okay. Disabling the NetBios is for our Pixie booting, and it will speed it up exponentially, believe me. Okay. So there's that. We've got our IPs all set. Now we're going to right click on each of these, click Install VMware Tools on both of them. Go to DC, this PC. You'll notice VMware Tools is now mounted. And what I do is I like to right click here and click Open so that I can right click on the Setup 64 and run as administrator. Okay. Right click, Open, run as administrator. Okay. Don't worry about this autoplay. We'll be fine. Okay, it should come up with the installation wizard here. Next, typical, next, and install. Same thing over here. Next, typical, next, install. Okay. It should install the virtual network driver, virtual mouse driver, keyboard, as well as the graphics driver. You'll see this video driver, and of course the screen will start flickering, and usually it'll increase the icon size to 125 when it restarts. But we're going to use our own resolution when we come back, so no worries there. Okay, good, finish. Let it restart, yes. This one's coming right up. Same thing, finish and restart. And then I'm going to pause and come back when that is done. Okay, the machines are back. So I'm going to right click on DC1, Settings, go to Options, VMware Tools. I'm going to click if a newer version of VMware Tools is available, update automatically, and synchronize my time with the host. Then I'm going to go up to Shared Folders, always enabled, Map as a network drive, next, and I'm going to grab this Prereqs folder, which will be our share on our machine where I have all my software, enable this share, click Finish, OK. I'm going to do the same thing with MDT01. Right click, Settings, Options, VMware Tools, Update Automatically, Synchronize Time, Shared Folder, always enabled, Map as a network drive, Add, Next, Browse, down to the bottom, Prereqs, Next, Enable Share, and OK. Now I can press Control-Alt-Insert, log in. Same thing here. Okay. And I'm going to click on the screen and I'm going to press the numlock key one time, and that way I can use my numlock in those VMs. That's a pretty important thing because sometimes I'll be doing it. I forget to set the numlock key to allow me to do that. So just a little thing. Okay, right click, click display set. You'll notice the icons went to 125%, which is good because that means the VMware Tools display adapter is working just fine. Display settings, and I'm going to increase the resolution to 1440 by 900. Move this over so you can see it. There we go. And I'll do the same thing here. Display settings, 1440 by 900. And there we go. And now on my MDT server, I'm going to change the power profile. So I'm going to right click on start or press the Windows key and the R key, but run, type control, enter. Going to click on where it says view by. I'm going to click large icons, power options, and I'm going to change this to high performance, change plan settings, and I'm going to click never to turn off the display. I don't have to worry about the DC because it can run in the background, and that's fine. We're going to be using this machine, so we want it to have a little bit more power, right? Okay, now KMS keys. So if I click KMS keys, just type KMS keys in Google, you'll see Key Management Services Client Activation, right? This is the first link. And you'll see, if you go down on the page, you'll see all the KMS keys for, here's Windows Server 2022, 2019, 2016. There's LTSC versions, the Windows Pro, Windows Enterprise. This is the one we're worried about for our clients, but these are the ones we're worried about for our servers. So what you can do to remove the evaluation version of server, this is the evaluation version. If you right click here on properties on any one of these, you'll notice that when I go to about, down at the bottom you'll see Windows Server 2022 standard evaluation. We're going to remove the evaluation, okay, and I'll show you how to do that. We're going to use those KMS keys, okay. So in my shares, which now is a Z drive, double click, go to Prereqs, okay, and I'm going to go to my capture share, applications, and down at the bottom I have a remove evaluation. And here's my server evaluation fix, right? So it's just one dism command for each one. And you'll notice the dism command is dism online set edition colon server standard / product key colon and then the KMS key for that version, accept the end user license agreement, and then no restart. Okay. Now you can see what versions your server can go to by opening up a PowerShell window as an admin, dism online get target editions. And what that'll do is it'll show you, look, I have two different target editions. I can put this as server standard or server data center. It's one word. So what I'll do is, because we're using standard, I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it here and press enter. Okay. It's going to go through. It's going to add a package there. I can go to the DC since I have that in the clipboard. I open up this PowerShell window as well, and I can actually paste that since I copied it. Boom. Paste that. And when we restart these, I'll show you that they are now the full version of Windows Server and not just the evaluation version. Okay, I'm here. I'm just going to type cmd shutdown -r for restart, -t for time and 1 second, and let it restart. This one's almost done. Same thing, cmd shutdown -r -t1, and there we go. Okay, and they're restarting. It'll come up. It'll say, you know, working features and you know, making sure everything's working. I'll show you that here. See, adding features. Don't turn off your computer, etc., etc. And as soon as it comes back up, I'll show you that same right click. It'll now just say Windows 2022 standard instead of evaluation. So password, right click on this PC, properties, about, down here, and now the evaluation is gone. We'll verify that on our DC as well, just to make sure. I always say trust but verify, even if it's yourself, right? So properties, and there we go. The evaluation is gone. Okay, simple. We restarted. Now we're going to add the .NET 3.5. Okay, and it's pretty simple because we still have our D drive mapped to our server 2022 media. Okay, now we don't have to worry about installing .NET 3.5 on the domain controller, but we're going to do that on our MDT server. And you can either do it from Server Manager, or you can open up a PowerShell command and just type Install-WindowsFeature net-framework-core-source, and remember, because it's our D drive is mapped here, this is where the source of that cab file is. So press enter, let it go through its thing, and it will add the .NET Framework 3.5. And because we're not worried about the DC, I'll just go through and install BGInfo for now. Now, BGInfo is included in the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, but it's an older version. So you want to get the newest version. I think it's 4.28. Let's find out. So, yep, BGInfo 4.28. And you just download that, and it will come in a, it has both the 32 and 64-bit versions. We want the 64-bit version, which I have in my deployment share under Applications, BGInfo. And what you're going to do is you're going to create a BG or a BGI file for your machine. And you can see my host machine has its host name, RAM, the version of Windows, the build number, and then how many logical processors. The logical processors, so this is an HP Z820 workstation. It has 2 Xeon processors. Each of the Xeon processors have 8 cores, so that's 16 cores total. But then you add hyperthreading, Intel's hyperthreading, that shows up as 32 cores. So that's why it says 32 logical processors. Okay, so that's how that works. And then if you look here, I have my BGInfo serve, and see this BGI file. If I open up BGInfo for the first time on this machine, I click run, it's going to have me agree to this terms, and you can see all of this BGInfo, in other words, background information, I can add to the side of my machine. So I've already created my own custom BGI file, which is here, with a background as well. So I'm just going to right click on this. I'm going to click run as administrator, and then it's going to install my nice pretty stuff there. So, okay, so you can see I need to change the computer name to DC01 when I have a chance. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I've installed. Restart needed. No. Success true. .NET Framework's installed. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to that same place on this machine, which is my deployment share, applications, BG info. I'm going to make sure it's my server one that I created. And I'm going to right click that batch file, click run as administrator, and I'll show you the places to edit. So you can see I need to change the computer names on both of these. Okay, so if you look at my registry key, when BG Info imports JPEGs, it imports them at pretty low quality. So if you change these two keys, the current user as well as the default user, JPEG import quality to 64, which is 100 in hex, right? So if you change those, then it'll import it fairly nicely. Then you're going to add to the HKey local machine software Microsoft Windows current version run this command, bginfo64. I usually place the bginfo64 file into the C Windows syswow64 folder. Then put your BGI file in there, your custom BGI file in the same folder, /silent /no license prompt /timer:0. Okay, and that way when you log into the machine, it'll automatically update that that wallpaper. And that way when you install new patches, as you can see, these aren't patched yet, right? It's at 587, so it should be a lot higher. I think it's in the 700s. We'll be installing a patch soon. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's change our computer names. So you're going to right click on this PC, go down here to rename this PC, and this is DC01. Next, it asks you, do you want to restart? Of course. Click Other Planned, Continue. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Right click, Properties. Rename this PC, MDT01. Next, Restart Now, Other Planned, Continue. And it's going to restart those machines. Okay. Now that we've installed the .NET Framework, we can unmount those ISO files. So click on CD DVD, use physical drive, it's fine. Same thing here. Use physical drive. Okay. There we go. And now we'll go to we don't have to worry about updating things on the DC right now. We'll patch the DC, but we don't have to worry about things like the .NET frameworks, the C++ runtimes, because it doesn't need them, right? It's just a DC. So let's log into our MDT server. There we go. And then you'll see that this will change as soon as BG info loads up. 1, 2, 3. Takes a couple seconds, and boom, there it goes. Now it says MDT01. Okay, so and you can also see that it says Server 2022 Standard instead of Evaluation version. We're going to go over here, Prereqs, in my capture share, under Applications and Visual C++ Redistributables. There's this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that because that folder is here, I'm going to show you how to get those. Okay, so you're going to go to the capture share. Well, I'm going to go to capture. I'll show you how we're going to do this. Create a folder, all right? And in my notes, I have this link, and I'll paste it up here, and I'll show you where it's at. Okay, so it's docs.microsoft.com/en-us/cpp. /Windows/latest-supported-VC-redist view equals MSVC-170. Now, you'll want the newest supported versions of these if you're in certain secure areas. But sometimes, like in some of my areas, we have software that's still running visual distributables that are 2008. Now 2005 is pretty old, but you can still download those from here. So you're going to go here, and you'll see this one here. It's from 2015 to 2022 is just one file. So you're going to download this x86 and x64. You're going to change the name. See how I've got them with the date and then underscore x86 underscore 64. Okay. Go down a little bit more. Here's the 2013. Same thing. VC redist. Add the date underscore Visual Studio 2012. Download those. Now you'll see this. It says no longer supported for 2010. Like I said, your area may still be using software that needs that. You can still download these. You might have to get an exception, who knows, but I install everything from 2008 up to 2022 because, like I said, now if you have really old software, there's a 2005 here you can grab. It says here they're available in this 2005 Service Pack redistributable. But so here's the 2008 one, and so you download all these, give a name, okay, and you'll see I have all of them in this folder. Now I also have a batch file that I made, and you can copy this. Just take a screenshot, and the %~DP0 just tells the batch file that this file is in the same directory as the batch file. As long as you have the quotes around it, you're good. Okay, so I always place this before the name. Okay, and you can of course place a folder name there, you know, whatever you want to do. Okay, so the 2008 distributables have a /Q for quiet. The 2010 have a /Q/no restart. Then 2012 is /quiet/no restart. You can see the executables look a little bit different, right? And then the newest ones have /install/quiet/no restart. Okay, and what that's going to do is that's going to silently install those. I have this hidebat VB script, which is just one line, and we're going to use this a lot in our MDT server to hide batch windows, because what this does is it runs that batch file, right, with a window that is hidden. Okay, and we'll do that later on, but as it stands now, when we install these, I'm just going to run it from the batch file, but we'll use this as the install command for our software in MDT. Okay, so now that I've got that there, I'm going to right click my install batch file, and you'll see this run because it's verbose, right? Because I'm not using the hide bat, and it'll go through and it'll install all of them down to 2022. Okay, I'm going to pause this for right now and come back when it's almost done. All right. Okay, it's almost there. It's set the last two. There's goes. Okay. Boom. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, run, type control. I'm going to go down to programs and features just to verify that they're all there. So there they are, 2008, 2010, 2012, 13, and 15 through 2022, all installed. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to patch both of our servers. Okay. Now, what you can do is you can type in Windows Server or 2022 Server Update History. Okay. Press Enter. And the second link where it says Microsoft Support, you're going to click on that. Okay, and this is what you want to look at. And then you're going to go over here to the left. You'll see the newest KB article. Okay, and you're going to highlight this KB, right click and copy. Then you're going to go to catalog.update.microsoft.com. Press enter. Copy that or paste that KB. Click search. And here it is, cumulative update, 245 megs. Click download. And what I've done is I placed that in a folder next to my operating systems. So I got a Prereqs, operating systems, server 2022. This is the KB. I said 2022-06, which is June, underscore cumulative update, CU. And there it is, KB 5014665. KB 5014665. Okay, and all I have to do is double click on that and run it. I'm going to do the same thing on my domain controller. Want to make sure all of your machines are up to date with the newest patches. So here we go, Prereqs, operating systems, 2022. There we go. And run that one. Okay. You're going to see a window come up here in a little bit, and we'll wait for that. There's open. Boom. I wonder if I accidentally didn't click that. Let's find out. It happens. You can right click and click open, and that way you know that you did it. Right? Okay, so there it goes. It's searching for updates. Do you want to install the following? Yes, I do. Okay, so that'll start. Same thing here. Just takes a moment. Open. Good. Preparing an installation. Okay, and I'll come back when that is installed, and I'll pause here. So while that's installing, you can see here our build number is 10.0.20348.587, and our KB that we just downloaded says that it will change it and we'll have 803 at the end, right? So you'll see when we are done installing this and we restart the machine that our BG info will update automatically and have 803 as the end of the build number. Okay, so I'll come back here in a moment. Okay, we're back. So installation is complete on the DC for that patch. Sorry about that. That's my dog. What is it, buddy? I know. Come here. What is it? Sorry about that. That's okay, though. This one's almost done. There it goes. It's okay. Restart now. And we'll let that do its thing, and then I'll come back as soon as it's done. Okay, so our DC is done. Log in, and it should update that BG info to 803 from, I believe it's 500s and something. MDT still at, there it goes, 100%. Okay, so it's at 587. As soon as the BG info refreshes, we should see that number change automatically. Here it comes. And boom, there's 803. Okay. And then we'll go over here. Same thing. Okay. While that's doing that, we'll watch that. There it goes. Okay. Now we're going to install 7-zip and Notepad on this machine. because we're going to be using those a lot as well. Install. That was easy, right? So 7-zip is installed, and Notepad++ is getting installed right now. While that's doing that, I'm going to go over to our domain controller. Okay, and we'll install these other pieces of software on our other machines, but while we're here, let's go to Server Manager and open that up. Okay, we'll go back to MDT, let Server Manager open up, run our Notepad installer. Okay, next, agree, next, keep the normal or the defaults. Yes, we're going to run it, finish, and the reason why we're going to run it is going to go to Settings, Preferences, and I like to click on Backup, and I don't like it when it shows me the old session that I had before this, so I'm going to click Remember Current Section and close. That way, next time I open it up, it doesn't have a file that I already opened up. Okay, so now we've had 7-zip Notepad. Let's go to install PowerShell 7. So if we go PowerShell 7, okay, you can see the first link, installing PowerShell on Windows. And this is the newest version, so here it is. PowerShell 7.2.5, WinX64. You can download that, okay? And that's at docs.microsoft.com/en-us/PowerShell /scripting/install/installing-PowerShell-on-Windows question view equals PowerShell-7.2. And you'll see that 64-bit version, which is what we're going to install. And of course, I have it in my, I believe it might be my capture share. Yep, sure is. PowerShell 7. Okay, and I'm going to install that. Let's look over here at our, while that's installing, we're going to go to Manage, Add Roles and Features. We can skip this page by default, it's fine. Next, Role-Based, next, DC01, next, and now we're going to add the Active Directory Domain Services. Click Add Features, that's fine. We're going to click DNS Server, next, okay, just like that, okay. We're not worried about .NET features on this server, next, next, restart if needed, yes, install, and let that go through its thing. We'll run PowerShell, okay. And while that's doing that, I'm going to open up another folder and show you in our capture share as well, applications, the CM Trace tool. Okay, that's the log tool that comes with Configuration Manager. And where you get it is the Configuration Management Manager tools. So Microsoft.com/en-us/download/confirmation.aspx question ID equals 50012. Press enter. Okay, it's going to bring you to this direct download of config manager tools. I'm not worried about that, so delete because I've already downloaded it. And I have it here in this folder. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to double click it, run. Okay, it's going to say what tools, just click next. Okay, there we go, finish. And then all you have to do now is go to C Program Files x86 Config Manager 2012 Tools, just like that, Client Tools. You open this up and you'll see cmtrace.exe, and all you have to do is copy that to your folder. Okay, I copied that to a folder. And what I have also done is I have this PowerShell script, and what it does, and this was made by someone else, but can't remember where I got it. But what it does is it sets any log files to open up automatically, and this is only needed for when I deploy it in MDT. So you don't have to worry about that now, because as soon as you open up CMTrace, it'll say, would you like to use this as the default log file? And you can do that. Okay, so CMTrace, I'm going to install that as well. So when I install PowerShell, I'm going to enable all of these features. Click Next. Yes, I want to update it through Microsoft Update or WSUS, and use Microsoft Update. Next, install. Okay. Now we're going to go look at see if our DC is done. Not yet. Let's go back over here, and while that's doing that, I'm going to go over to the CMTrace log tool. Okay. And where I'm copying that, I'll show you this in my install.bat file. I'm making a directory called CWindowsCCM for configuration management, right? I'm going to copy that CMTrace file there, and then I run that PowerShell script just to use the log files, or use CMTrace as the default for the log files. You can either do that, or you can just double click the file when it's in the CCM folder, and then it'll ask you if you'd like to use it as the default. Okay. So while that's doing that, I can actually do that right now, because a batch file can run at the same time. So run as administrator, run. You'll see it's copying the files. It's running that PowerShell script. You'll see here, LO, log files, etc. And now all I have to do is go to, I think it's x86, right? Where did I put it? Was it Windows? Yeah, Windows CCM, CMTrace. And it says, do you want to set this to the log file? Sure. Okay. And then I like to launch PowerShell the first time, just to make sure there's no errors here. Just something I do. Okay. So CMTrace is installed. And now Report Viewer. We're going to be using Report Viewer for our WSUS as well as our monitoring in MDT. So let's go here to Prereqs. Let's go to our deployment share, applications. Let's see, did I put, is monitoring or is report viewer here? There it is, SQL Server Report Viewer. Okay, good. And I'll show you where we get that. So, so download, sorry about that, download. Okay, so you can see here, first thing that comes up is our report viewer. Okay, and the requirements of it are also, it will tell you .NET 3.5 and also the SQL CLR types. Here are the files you need to download. So these are the CLR types, and I usually download the x86 and x64 version. Okay, so you can see details, aspects, ID 29065. If you click on download, it'll come up and it'll show you. There it is. Okay, that's that file. And then if you go here, 35747, the runtime, download that. And what I'll normally do is make a batch file that installs all three. So it installs first the CLR types and then the report viewer. So I'm going to do that. Right click, run as administrator, run, and let that go. Let's go over here. How are we doing? Configuration required, installation successful. We go up here, promote this server to a domain controller. There we go. Okay, we're going to click add a new forest. We're going to call this MDT.LAB. Next. As you can see, I have it right here. Okay. Go over here and see how that's doing. Okay, report viewer is installed. We can verify all that. Going to run control. We're going to program some features, and we can look. There's report viewer, and there are CLR types. There's the x86 and x64, Notepad++, PowerShell. Everything's coming together. Okay, so DC1, it's coming up, and it'll ask us for the password. We're going to use that same password. When you see the red asterisk, then you can type there. Okay, password, password. Same thing here. Next, next. Okay, it should say our MDT. There we go. Good. Okay, this is fine. Next, next. You'll get the normal two warnings. They're not errors. They're just warnings, and you can skip them. They're fine. Okay. While this is doing that, let's see what we got. We're right here. Okay. So DC01, verifying prerequisites for domain controller. Let me grab a drink here. Okay. There's our two warnings, and then down here, prerequisite check completed. All prerequisites checks passed successfully. Click install. We're not worried about that. And while that's doing that, I'm going to pause and go feed the dogs, and I'll be right back. Okay, fed the dogs, came back. The domain controller is now promoted, and as you can see, it says MDT/administrator, so we're good there. Give it a few moments here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Administrative Tools. I'm going to right click on Active Directory Users and Computers. I'm going to pin that to start. I'm going to pin ADSI Edit to start. And then I'm going to go down to, let's see, DNS. There we go. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to go to DNS. And let's go over here to reverse lookup zones. Right click on reverse lookup zones, click new zone, next, primary zone, to all DNS servers running on domain controllers in this forest, IPv version 4, we're going to type 192.168.1, next, allow only secure dynamic updates, next, and finish. So there's our reverse lookup zone. That was easy enough, right? Active Directory Users and Computers. Go here. Let's see, we got our domain controller, of course, is our primary. So I'm just going to type on our description, primary domain controller. Okay. Now, I like to have operating system here. I'll show you how we'll add that. So first, I'm going to add our OU. We'll just call this lab. And another OU, we'll call this member servers. New, we'll call this clients. I'll say another OU, we'll call this general user accounts. And we'll call this one administrative accounts. Okay, so when we have member servers and clients, I'd like to have operating systems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to ADSI Edit, right click on ADSI Edit, click Connect To, select a well-known naming context. We're going to do configuration, okay? Click OK, and then double click here, display specifiers. For English, it's 409, so I'm going to double click that. Go down to organizational, let's see, where are we at? Organizational unit display, double click on there, and then we're going to look for extra columns. Okay, click edit, and we're going to type operating, lowercase o, system with capital S, one word, and then we're going to type operating system for how we want it to look, 0, 150, 0. So comma 0, comma 150, comma 0. Click add. Okay, click OK. Click OK. You can close this, and now we're going to go to Active Directory users and computers. And if we go to View, Add, Remove Columns, we'll see operating system is there. Click OK. Do the same thing here with domain controllers. Add, Remove. Double click. OK. And if we click on domain controllers now, you'll see there's our operating system. Server 2022 standard. Okay. And it will do the same thing when we add our member server, which will be our MDT server. We'll add that here, and you'll see operating system show up there. Okay. So now that we've got that all set, we'll go to MDT-01, right click on properties. I'm going to go down here to advanced system settings, go to computer name, change, and click on member of, and we're going to type MDT.LAB. It's going to ask us for our username and password, which is the same. Click OK. Welcome to the MDT.LAB domain. OK. And then it says you have to restart. Restart now. And it should already show up here in computers. So there it goes. And what we'll do is we'll move that to member servers. Click the don't show this warning. That's fine. Yes. As soon as it's done and it loads up the operating system, we'll see it here in a moment. Refresh. There it goes. Windows Server 2022 standard. I'm going to click properties, and under description I'm going to cut deployment server. And there you go. So MDT, type computer, deployment server, and it shows the operating system. Now we'll log in. Okay. Now that it's part of the domain, we're good. Okay. So we've got that out of the way. Restart. We move to the OU. And now, here we go. So we're going to do our WSUS portion in probably another video, but we'll do the rest here because WSUS does take a long time to set up, and overnight you have to wait for the updates to come down. But we'll finish this video, and then my next video will have the WSUS portion. Okay, so now that this is done, we don't even need to worry about the DC anymore. Okay, so there we go. I'll sign out, and we'll just be focusing on our MDT server. All right, so server manager. Give it a few moments to load up. And we're going to be adding our DHCP, our Windows Deployment Services. We'll configure those. This will be our DHCP scope. We'll disable NetBios over TCP IP for the speed of our deployment. So services, you can see the clipboard service is fine, and the DPS service is fine. So we're not really worried about those right now. Okay. But since those showed up, now we know we can click add features, click skip by default, next, role-based, MDT. Give it a few moments. Let me pause that so you're not wasting your time. All right, here we go. So now we're going to click on DHCP server, click add features. Down at the bottom, Windows Deployment Services, and then click also add features. We'll add Windows Server Update Services, WSUS, later. Click next, next. Same thing, keep going. Deployment server, transport server, yes. Okay, restart if needed, which I don't think we will, but we'll find out here. Okay. And I'll pause until that's done. While that's doing that, we're going to look disable NetBios over TCP/IP, DHCP, okay? And what we'll be doing is we'll be going to the advanced settings, Microsoft Windows 2000 options in the vendor class list, and we're going to click on Microsoft Disable NetBios option, and we're going to, it's by default it's 1, we're going to put 2 for the data entry, which will disable it, okay? So that's how that's going to work, and we'll come right back to this when it's done. Okay, and now all of that's done. Click close, go up here, and click on complete DHCP configuration. You'll see this, click next. You can click on use alternate credentials, click specify, administrator. Good, commit. Don't worry about the Kerberos. Done and done, okay? As long as you see done and no failed, you're good. Close. All right. You can check these boxes if you'd like. Okay. So that's that. Now we're going to go over here, and we're going to go down to Administrative Tools. I'm going to right-click on DHCP, click Pin to Start. Go down here to Windows Deployment Services, and I'm also going to pin that to Start. So click on DHCP. We're going to create our scope. So IPv version 4. First, we're going to go to Server Options. Well, sorry. Right-click first. We'll create our scope. New scope. Next, we'll just call this MDT.LAB scope. And 192.168.1.100, 192.168.1.199. It's a 24-bit mask, of course. Not worried about exclusions. 7 days. And yes, I want to configure these options now. Our gateway, 192.168.1.1. Click Add. Next. This is fine. This is fine. Next. Yes, I want to activate the scope, and finish. And there we go. We have our scope. Now if we go to Scope Options, right? I'm going to go to Server Options, okay? Right-click, Configure Options, okay? Go to the Advanced tab, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click on the drop-down box to Microsoft Windows 2000 options. 001, Microsoft Disable NetBios option. Long, we're going to type 2 and click Apply and click OK. And there we go. And what I normally will do is I'll right-click and just restart that DHCP services. Okay, give it a moment. There we go. Okay, so that's done. And now we're going to go to our Windows Deployment Services. Under Servers, we're going to right-click, click Configure Server. Next. Integrated or standalone, it's up to you. Doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to place that on our E drive. So just type E instead of C. Okay, that's for our deployment. Do not listen on DHCP and configure DHCP options because this is going to be our DHCP server. Next, respond to all client computers, known and unknown. Next, give it a moment. And this usually will always be the case where it says the service did not respond, and that's fine because we're just going to go right up here, right click, all task, and start. There we go. And now we have our WDS set up. You can right click here, click properties, and go to the TFTP tab, and we want to increase our block size to 16,384. Okay, click apply. Now in boot you can say require the user to press the F12 key to continue, or just always continue the Pixie boot, whichever you want. I'm going to put always on this lab environment, but in a production you might want to make sure that the press F12 is checked. Okay, apply and OK. All right, so that's set. And now we get to the nitty-gritty stuff. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna go over here to the prereqs so that we can talk about the ADK. All right, now that's a direct link to the ADK, but I'm going to say Windows ADK for Windows 11. You're going to click the first link that comes up. Now, there is a new version, but it's not working very well, and it's got a lot of problems, okay? Johan spoke about that. If you go to his deploymentresearch.com site, and you go down to, I think it was Notes from the Lab here. Yeah. Go to Notes from the Lab, and he's talking about the newest version, and it got rid of x86, of course, but you get these errors in the window. You'll get, if you try to load x86. So there are some issues with that one. So we're not going to download the 22H2 one. We're going to download the 21H2. So if you go down to other ADK downloads, you'll see this download the ADK for Windows 11. So we're going to grab both this ADK for Windows 11 and the Windows PE add-on for ADK, which is right here. Okay? We'll grab that, and I'll show you the two files it downloads are the Adk Setup as well as the Adk Win Setup. And then when you double click those, you can have it download to a folder of your choice. Okay, and that's how we're going to do that. So I'll let you, you can pause the video and download those. Okay, and then I'm going to go here. I have it in a folder called Adk Setup. I'm going to right click and run as administrator. Okay. And we'll do the same thing as soon as it's done with the WinPE add-on. Okay, so it comes up, says, would you like to run it? Yes. Okay, install, yes. Next. No, sorry, I'm not going to be allowing Microsoft Insight. Click accept. I'm going to uncheck these bottom ones. Now, you can keep the imaging and configuration designer and configuration designer if you'd like. I don't use them, so I'm just going to use deployment tools and the user state migration tool. I'm going to click install and give that a few moments. I'll be right back when it's done. Okay, our ADK is installed, and now we're going to install the WinPE add-on for that. So same thing, right click and run as administrator. Run. Install. Next. No. Next. Accept. It should only have one checkbox, so we're good. And I'll come back when that one's done. Okay, the WinPE add-on is installed. And now what we need to do is we need to go grab our Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, right? So you can just type Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, download, and you'll see, make sure it says 8456, good, download, okay, and then we need to get a fix for this. So the fix prevents a master boot record, UEFI, sorry, it goes into a reboot loop. So this will fix that. Okay, so if you go to the page here, you saw my link right here. Download this update now, and it'll automatically load to the KB, and you can just right click on that and extract, and it gives you these two folders. Okay, and I'll show you where we're going to put those. Now, here's our MDT. So here's the KB, and if you, like I said, if you open it up in 7-zip, you can see you just extract it. All right, so Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. And while that's doing that, I'm going to show you some other things. Actually, it's going pretty quick, but let's go to, I have DeployWiz. Let's see here. Okay, here it is. So we're going to go to rdr-it/en/mdt-customize-sequence-based-deployment with tasks sequence ID /. Okay, and what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to edit our deploy wiz select ts VBS file, and I'll show you where that's at when we're done with our installation here. Next, I accept, next, next. I don't want to join install, that's fine. Updating, good. Finish. And now we're going to go into our extracted file. You're going to copy these. This PC, C, Program Files, Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. You're going to go to Templates, Distribution, Tools, right-click, click Paste. It'll ask you if you want to override those two files. Yes. And that's pretty much it for the patch. Okay. Now, under the distribution, you're going to go to Scripts. Okay. We're going to edit this portion in here because then any deployment share that we create will have those files. Okay, we're not going to edit them in the deployment share, we're going to edit them here, and that way when we make a deployment share, they'll automatically be edited. Okay, so we're going to go here to select TS VBS. Okay, that's our Visual Basic script. We're going to edit that. Okay, and you'll see how we edit it. It says here, back up the first one, open the file, search for this function. So we're going to search, find next, and there it is. You can see that. Okay, and then add this afterwards. Okay, so we're going to copy right underneath this. Okay, we're going to just go like that, save, and then search for the end function. Okay, copy, edit, find, end function, and then it says right before that, we're going to add this. Okay, just like that. Save the file. Okay, and then we'll edit our custom settings INI to allow us to do that later. Okay, now the other file we're going to edit, which has to do with BitLocker and Server 2022. So what I noticed in my lab environment is I would deploy Windows 10, Windows 11, and Server 2019, and it would automatically enable BitLocker and would encrypt the drive. The only one that it wouldn't do it on was Server 2022, and the reason why is it has a SKU check. Okay, and the SKU check, the SKU check, will pretty much error out that that part. So I want to say I had a link to that website, but we'll just go in here and I'll show you what I have. Okay, so if I go to my MDT folder and I go to BitLocker ZTIE, here it is. It's on Spiceworks is where I found the solution for that. So I went to the enabling BitLocker and MDT task sequence, BitLocker waiting for activation. And it looked like the same thing, right? Server 2022. It was the only one that had that problem. And what we found out from the original OP, Clang Knight 89, is that that SKU check is newer because Server 2022 hadn't been out yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to comment out, I actually removed it, this section, which I copied, to that ZTI BDE file. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to copy the edited version to here, cut, and I'm going to paste it right in here. Okay, replace the file, and now I shouldn't have any issues with BitLocker in 2022. Okay, so those are now all set. I already adjusted the WDS settings and TFTP to 16384. Our scope is done, and now we get to the good part. Okay, so let's go over here to Deployment Workbench. I'm going to pin that to start. I'm going to go down to Windows Kits, and I'm going to pin these both to our area. So let's open up our Deployment Workbench. Okay, and now I'm going to create two shares. So right click here, New Deployment Share. I'm going to call this one, and of course it's going to go on our deployment drive, E. So I'm going to say E capture share, and I'm going to change this to the share name to capture share. Next, same thing, change that to capture, because we're going to have two shares. Okay, you can leave this as default for right now and click next. Okay, finish. There's our first share. Now our next one, E drive, deployment share is fine. Deployment share. Next. And there we go. So now we have both of our deployment shares. All right. Then, so extra folders. And the reason I say extra folders is because we're going to have some other folders that we need in our task sequence. So in our capture share, our extra folders are going to be a scripts custom, because these are going to be in there, and I'll show you those in a little bit. A logs folder, which is empty, and then our extras file. I'm going to show you BG info stuff that we're going to do with that. So I'm going to copy these three, and like I said, you're going to create a logs folder, a scripts custom folder. Now this is from Deployment Buddy, the action cleanup. So if I go to Deployment Bunny cleanup, and you can see the GitHub and action cleanup, the VB script that she had posted a long time ago. So I have that. This is a fix sysprep for Windows 11, which is for OneDrive, and I'll show you this where we're going to place this, and then a cleanup. Okay, so we'll get to these in a little bit. Now, like I said, I'm going to copy those folders and we'll get that done. So in our capture share, I'm going to click logs, extra files, and copy those. And I'm going to go to my capture share and I'll paste those. And now I'm going to go to my deployment share and I'm going to have a logs, extra files. I'm going to have recovery keys folder, which is empty as well, the scripts, and then user data, which is empty. Okay. And I'll show you what's inside the scripts folder of that. Okay. So we'll go here to our deployment share, paste. Good. And then in our scripts folder custom, I have two. I have a disable IPv6, which is just one command. It disables the adapter IPv version 6 and then sets the network to private. Okay. So for however many network cards, network adapters you have on the machine. Okay. So now we're going to get to our bootstrap and settings. Okay. So let's go to my capture share. Actually, I'm going to go to, let's see, was it capture share? Or was, sorry about this. Let's see, it was an MDT. That's where it was. Okay, so my bootstrap capture, as you can see, it's deploy root, capture share, MDT1's capture share, skip welcome, BDD, administrator, password twice, and MDT01. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go over to my capture share, right click on properties, uncheck the x86, click apply, click rules, edit bootstrap. I'm going to replace what's there, click save, and that's pretty much that for the bootstrap on that one. I'm going to do the same thing with deploy. Show you that. I'm opening it in Notepad++ because that's usually how I do it. Same thing, but this one's of course deployment share instead of capture share. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to right click on there, properties, uncheck x86, click apply, rules, edit bootstrap, highlight, and save that as well. Okay. And now we're going to go to our custom settings INI file, which is the rules. I'm going to open this in Notepad just so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so remember I told you that we're going to do task sequence ID. That's why we edited this deploy with select TS, right? That's only going to be in our deployment task, not in our capture task. So we're not worried about that right now. So in our capture sequence, priority is just default. Property is my custom property. And then this is what you're going to do. So default OS install goes yes. Deployment type new computer. Do not create the extra partition for BitLocker because we're not going to need that. SMS org name underscore, of course. Capture Windows image. The task sequence name will be the package name. We're going to say no to skip task sequence. Yes to skip computer name because our computer name is just going to be the task sequence ID. Skip domain membership, yes. Join work group. Skip product key equals yes. Now, this is for locale, okay? So if I go here, I got this for you guys so that if you needed to know what your locale was, right? So mine is ENUS for English, US, right? But if you needed to know for other languages, you just look here on this page, available language packs. So you can see each language, here's ENUS right there, United States, but each area has its own language pack and you can set that. So I say skip locale, selection equals yes, UI language, ENUS, ENUS, keyboard locale, ENUS, skip time zone equals yes, and then see my time zone is US Mountain Standard Time. If you don't know what your time zone is, okay, you can open a command prompt and you can just type tzutil/g and it will tell you US Mountain Standard Time. If you need the list, /L and it'll list them all. You can actually pipe that, so go more, and that way you can press spacebar. So it starts here, and your name is, if you're there, you just copy that, right? Okay. But your current one is just the /G. Okay. So you just place that there for time zone name. All right. Then we're going to skip roles, skip applications. We're going to set our WSUS server to our current machine, port 8530. That's going to be my second video. I'll show you how to do that. Skip admin password, yes. And then, of course, we add our admin password. Skip capture equals yes. Do capture equals yes. And our computer backup location is going to be an MDT01 capture share captures. And then our backup file, we're going to add the date. And that, of course, was Johan had given us a nice, on his deployment research page, adding date to the captured WIM file in MDT. And he showed us how to do that. Okay. And so that way we have our year, our month, and our day appended to, and I put task sequence ID, right? Underscore, and then the day that you captured it. Skip computer backup equals yes. Skip user data, yes. Skip BitLocker, yes. Our log files are going to go here. Our event service, because we're going to enable monitoring, is port 9800. Now this is just a little trick, and I'm sure you've used it before, and what it does is it sets the resolution to 1 pixel by 1 pixel so that the machine that you're deploying to goes, hey, I got to fix this, and it looks at a recommended resolution, and it always sets it to the recommended. So vertical refresh, bits per pixel, 32. Okay, skip summary, yes. Hide shell, no. Skip final summary, yes. And then for our captured images, I want it to shut down the machine, not restart. That way I know when it's done, the machine is completely shut down, and we're good. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put this in our capture share. So right click, properties, rules, select all, paste that, apply. Then I'm going to the Windows PE tab. Okay, I'm going to go to x64. This extra directory to add, I'm going to browse, because remember I copied that extra files folder. Click apply. Features, I'm going to some commandlets, .NET Framework, and Windows PowerShell. Click apply. Remember, this is a capture, so we're going to put nothing for drivers and include all drivers from selection profile. Apply. Now monitoring, I'm going to enable monitoring, click apply, and then I'm going to verify. I'll go to services.msc, okay, and then I'm going to look for Microsoft Deployment Monitoring Service, which is right here, and make sure it's running. There it is. And make sure it's set to automatic. If it's not, just set it to automatic and start the service. Okay, that's good. And now I'm going to go to my custom settings deploy. Now, this is where we get the nitty gritty. Okay, remember I showed you the KMS keys. Okay, so you can go through and you can add that. So this is going to be per task sequence ID first, then default. Okay, and I'm going to name my capture and deploy task like this. Okay, so product key, this is KMS key. I'm going to give the clients a TPM pin so that when it restarts, you have to type in a pin for the laptops or desktops. The servers are just going to use the TPM module. So, okay, and you can disable that if you want. You can just put TPM if you want and get rid of the TPM BDE pin. But I like to use that. It's a little bit more secure, right? Okay, so then we have server. This one here is data center, and here's standard. Same thing, data center, standard. Okay, the KMS keys for each of those. Now we're going to go to default, OS install yes, deployment type, new computer, deploy a Windows image, task sequence name, skip task sequence no, skip computer name no, skip product key yes, because we just added those. Same thing, time zone, tzutil/g to make sure you're given the time zone name correctly. Skip roles yes, skip applications no, because we're going to be able to select our applications. Excuse me. We're going to add our WSUS server as well, because what I'm going to do is I create a golden image about once every 3 months, maybe 4 sometimes. And that way I keep my WSUS server up to date so that it keeps the images as they go out up to date. Okay. Skip admin password yes, admin password. Skip capture yes, do capture no. Skip computer backup yes. Then skip user data yes, user data location. This is in case you're using the user state migration tool, and this of course won't be for new computers, it'll be refreshes, but I'd like to have that information in here. Skip BitLocker equals yes. BDE allow alphanumeric pin yes. A little bit more secure, right? TPM owner password, I put the same password there. BDE install suppressed equals no. Wait for encryption, I like the drive to be encrypted before it continues. BitLocker wait for encryption equals true. The drive size 3000, S drive. I'm going to store the recovery key in Active Directory, and the key location, that's why I created that recovery keys folder. It's going to put a text file with the name of the machine and the recovery key. Okay, here's our log file and our event service for monitoring, our resolution fix, skip summary yes, hide summary no, skip final summary yes, and our finish action for a deploy machine is just to reboot. So that way it's all, it's shut down for capture, reboot for deploy. Now remember, if you deploy a machine and it asks for a TPM pin before it boots, if you don't put it in a certain amount of time, it'll shut down the machine, which is fine. Okay, so copy this to our deployment share, properties, rules, select all, and paste, apply. Let's go to Windows PE, x64, 512. That's right. I'll go back here in a moment and I'll show you extra files. Okay, apply. While I'm thinking about it. So capture share, properties, rules, go to x64 again and change this to 512 as well. Okay, just in case. But go back to the properties here. We did rules, Windows PE, x64. We got that extra files. Features, DISM commandlets, .NET Framework, Windows PowerShell, apply. And now, before we do the drivers, what I want to do is, in this area, I'm going to go to out-of-box drivers. I'm going to say new folder. I'm going to call this WinPE. Okay. And then I'm going to, because I'm deploying HP machines, I'm going to type HP. And then I know that the newest version of our WinPE drivers for HP is 2.10, I believe. So WinPE drivers, HP, if I just type that, you'll see HP Client Windows 10 x64 pack. Yep, 2.10, SP132903. Okay, so you can download that. Okay, if you're using HP machines, there are Dell WinPE driver packs as well, if you're using that instead, and you can grab that here, and that newest version is A26. Double click, download that instead. You can rename this to Dell underscore or Dell comma Inc. As those are that's the other version. So I'm going to put 2.10. That way I can tell at a glance that it's up to date. I'm going to go, and since I downloaded that, and I asked you to download that as well, if I go to, let's see, where did I download this? In my deployment share. Okay, out of box drivers, HP, WinPE drivers. There they are. Okay, so here it is, the SP13903, the one we just saw. I extracted it into this folder right here. I'm going to copy this to my desktop just for right now. It's fairly large, so give it a moment, and we'll delete it after we import those drivers, but that's all right. I extracted it with 7-zip. So you just right click, extract files, and you'll see that inside of it you have all the network and storage and IO drivers. Okay, so now I can right click, import drivers, browse, click on this x64 WinPE10 folder. Next, you'll see it start importing the drivers. If you see any yellow here, that usually just means it's an x86. That, see, it says does not support the platform x86. That's all that is. So no worries about yellows. If it's red, then you might have a problem, but yellows are fine. Okay, give that a few moments. Shouldn't take too long. It's just the WinPEs. And this contains the USB 3, the NVMe drivers, and for anything HP. And like I showed you here, Dell has the same thing for their machines, and then Lenovo, they all have their own WinPE drivers. So you can see it says here x86 as indicated, and we're not interested in x86 drivers. We're interested in the x64 drivers. So no worries there. These are all x64. There we go. Okay, and you can see there it is. There are all of our WinPE. You can delete this folder now. Move that up. I'm gonna right click, view, and I'm gonna auto arrange icons. There we go. That way it doesn't do that again. Okay, so now we've got that. We're gonna go to our advanced configuration selection profiles. I'm gonna say new selection profile. I'm gonna call this drivers-WinPE. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go to out of box drivers. Boom. If I have more than one, that's fine too. I can have WinPE HP and Dell underneath here, and Lenovo, whatever machines I'm deploying to. Okay, there we go. So I now have a selection of just those out-of-box drivers, and when I go back to my deployment share under Windows PE x64, I'm going to go to the drivers and patches, and I'm going to select drivers WinPE that I just created. I'm going to say include all drivers from the selection profile, and click apply. Okay, there we go. That was simple, right? And now operating systems. Go to our capture share, and we're going to create these folders, but we're also going to copy them to the deployment share, so it's fine. So we're going to say Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows Server 2019, and Windows Server 2022. All right, now underneath this, I'm going to go right click, new folder. I'm going to say Enterprise, because you can have Home, Pro, whatever you want to do. So same thing with Windows 11, Enterprise. Server 2019, I'm going to put Data Center and Standard. Same thing with 2022, new folder, Data Center, and Standard. Okay.
Now remember, our WinPE drivers only go in our deployment share, not in our capture share. We don't want any additional drivers in our capture share. So, okay, so operating systems, go down to the deployment share, right click, paste, and we have those folders now in both areas, which is good. Okay, now as far as drivers go, here's the funny thing. So I have a new HP laptop, and then I have this machine, which I'm on. Okay, if I go wmic computer system get make, or let's say model, okay, there's model, right? And then wmic computer system get manufacturer, you'll see it says Hewlett Packard, right? So here's HP Z820 workstation, and here's Hewlett Packard, Hewlett-Packard, right? On the newer machines, the manufacturer, even though it's HP, it just says HP. It doesn't say Hewlett Packard. So when you use the make model in your Microsoft Deployment Toolkit for drivers, make sure that you've checked the machine if you're going to do it that way. And I'll show you how I'm going to lay that out, right? So like I said, my Z820 workstation is manufacturer says Hewlett Packard. The HP laptop says HP. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. So in the out-of-box drivers, we have our WinPE drivers. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to type HP, and then I'm going to create a new folder called Hewlett Packard. Okay. Now I know that my machine is a HP Z820 workstation, just like that. Okay, and then the laptop, when I did the name, I'll go to my deployment share and out of box drivers. You can see here, this is the name that it gave. Okay, very long. So I go here to HP, new folder, same thing, next, next. Okay, and if I go in there, I downloaded the driver, so you can say HP driver packs. You can see driver pack 64-bit. Click here, and you can see I'm going to go and I'll say find on this page HP Z820 workstation. So I have to go pretty far back, which I think is 99374, which was for Windows 10 2004, which still works with any version of Windows 10. It's fine. Okay, but that's where I get the driver. That's the newest driver released for my machine. And if I grab that other name, right, and I'll just grab up to, say, right here, and I'll do a search like X360, and then I can say G8, and there it is. So the newest driver here is 140015, right? And I can go all the way to the top just to see Windows 11, which will still work in Windows 10. You're fine with that. So 140015, which is the same drivers. So I copied that executable, I extracted it, and I'll copy those drivers to that portion. And I'm also going to go to my Hewlett Packard, which I did the same thing, downloaded that 99374, extracted those with 7-zip as well. Give it a few moments here while it's doing its thing. Oop, cancel that. Hold on. That was my fault because I was using it at the same time. I'll copy this first. Oh, probably in use. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Okay, so go here, MDT, where are we at? Deployment share. And we'll say out of box drivers, Hewlett Packard, HP,
paste. There's our Z820. Okay, and then our Elite book. Okay, and while that's doing that, let's reopen our deployment workbench. And I'll show you how we import those. So here's our Z820, which is already copied to our desktop. Import drivers, click Browse, 99374. I'll have to check on that in a moment. Here's our folder. Next. That's okay. While that's doing that, let's fix that. So I'm going to delete that folder. Let that one go in, and this is a good thing because some things happen, right? So there it is. I'm going to grab that, save as. I'm going to place this in my Prereqs folder because I know it's good. It's 1 gig, so it shouldn't take too long. And once that's done, we'll just extract it directly with 7-zip. Okay. So we'll go to this PC, Prereqs. We'll wait for it to show up. Downloads. Seconds. Almost there. And that's okay. This, things happen. Hiccups. But at least it's not too bad, right? Okay. So this is one warning, which is fine. Remember I said does not appear to support x86 platform. We're not worried about x86 platform. We're just worried about the drivers for the Z820. We'll delete that. Empty recycle bin. Good. It's a big files and everything. So okay, so now we've got it. Close this and right click, refresh. There it is right there. I'm going to copy this to the desktop. Okay, there's our file. Right click, extract files to the desktop. Give it a moment. Let 7-zip do its thing. And we can delete that. And now we can import the driver files. There we go. And here we go. All right. And that's all right. Things happen. Okay. So we did custom settings, bootstrap. Showed you how to grab that. We're doing our OS layout, our WinPE layout, our driver layout. Custom background. That's one we can do. Okay, so while it's importing that driver, I'll show you what we're going to do. So in here, the default background for Microsoft Deployment Toolkit is 800 by 600 pixels, and it's very bland. It's gray, and it just says Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. So I made my own background using that thing, and I made it myself. It's 1024 by 768 there, and I'll show you how to set a custom background. So what we're going to do, I'm going to copy this to my desktop while it's doing its thing. There it is. Okay, I'm going to open up this PC, local settings. I'm going to go to Program Files, Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, and Samples. Okay. Here's the original background. I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to type _old for that. Okay. And I'm going to grab it, cut, and I'm going to paste it right into that folder. And now I have my own custom background, and I'll show you where that shows up in the rules and everything. Okay, so there's that. WinPE drivers, monitoring we showed, and then we're going to do the rest of these, and then we'll do a mock capture at the end. So, all right, give it a few moments. Let's see, is there anything else in here that I need to do? Nope. Okay, good. So if I go to my capture share, we're going to set up, first we'll set up our Windows 10 capture share, and then our Windows 11 one will be pretty close because we'll be able to copy this one and then just change a few things, right? So I'll place this in here as well, and then our applications for our task sequence. Okay, and so there's that. Let's go to our capture share. Okay, there we go. And that's copying those drivers. We're going to set up our folders this way. So I've got applications, .NET Frameworks, CM Trace Tool, DirectX, DoD certificates, Microsoft Edge, policy definitions. This one's going to be a big one here. PowerShell 7, remote server administration tools, remove evaluation, reset image state, Visual C++ runtimes. We already set up our operating system folders. Our task sequences, we're going to set up our cleanup, thanks to Deployment Buddy, and everything else. So as soon as this is done, we'll do a few little things, and then I'll stop this video and we'll create another video for next time. Let's see here. And the next video will show you the setup for applications. It'll show you WSUS. It'll show you building our boot capture, our deployment task sequence, capture task sequence, adding things in there, and yeah, it's gonna be great. So let's let this finish. I'm gonna pause and then come back. Okay, so that's done importing the drivers for the EliteBook. There are a lot of them. It's very large. Okay, we can delete that folder now. Okay. Now, I'm going to set up folders so you can follow along here. First folder, .NET Frameworks. Then CM Trace Log Tool. DirectX. DoD certificates. Microsoft Edge. If you don't know what I'm doing, I'm going along this line here. Okay. Policy definitions. PowerShell 7. Remote server administration tools. Remove evaluation. This will be for our client machines because they require some files. Reset image state. This is for generalize when we
right before sysprep. Okay, and then Visual C++ redistributables. Okay, and that's good for our capture share. Now let's go to our deployment share, and this is going to be a long one. So start up here, new. We're starting right up here. First one we're going to have is 7-zip, of course. Then we'll have Adobe Acrobat Reader. BG Info. Evaluate Stig. Google Chrome. Microsoft 365 for Enterprise. Microsoft NetBanner. Microsoft Silverlight. Mozilla Firefox. Notepad++. Oracle Java. Registry settings. SCAP compliance checker. The SQL Server report viewer. Stig viewer. The sysinternal suite. Visual Studio Code. WebEx for meetings. And then I'll call this one Windows Branding. Okay. So we've got all of our folders all set up the way we want them so far. All right. And in our next video, I'm going to show you, we're going to script the software so that it's all silent. We're going to add our, actually, let's do this now. We'll just add our operating systems before we stop the video. Okay, so let's do this. Remember, we downloaded our operating system ISOs, so we're going to go over here to Desktop, Prereqs, Operating Systems, Windows 10, the Enterprise. Good. Now that we've mounted that, we'll say Import full set of source files, browse to the D drive. You'll see we can remove this evaluation because we'll be removing it anyway. Next. Now when we import Windows 11, it also says Windows 10 on there for some reason, but we'll just change that, so it's fine. Yeah, if you look in the registry, so I'm running Windows 11 Pro, and if you look under, let's see, software, Microsoft, I think it's Windows NT. Let's go down here to Windows NT, current version, and you look, it says product name Windows 10 Pro instead of Windows 11. Strange, isn't it? Okay, almost done. 98%. Boom. Okay. So there's that. And what I like to do is I like to right click and I like to shorten that name. So Windows 10 Enterprise x64 install.wim. And now right click settings. We'll grab the Windows 11 WIM. Next, OK. And import operating, same thing. Full set of source files. Source directory is our drive. We'll say Windows 11. Get rid of this. Next. And there we go. It doesn't take too long. I hope I'm not making these videos too long. Like I said, I'll cut this one off and then I'll create the next one so that you guys can, walk through this one, be ready for the next one. I'll do that one tomorrow. '98 and finish. Okay, right click, rename. There we go, Windows 11. And now, remember, in the server disk in the ISOs, there's 4 different versions. There's the core data center, and then standard and desktop for both. So full set of source files, we're going to import. And this one we're just going to say, get rid of this. Just say server, because there'll be 4 versions. And that's just the folder that it's placing the WIM and the files into. I'll show you where that's at. So if I go to our capture share operating systems, you'll see here's the folders that it's importing. Windows Server 2019 server. There it is. Okay. And you'll see the 4 WIMs, and we'll just delete 2 of them and then move the other ones into their selected folders. Or I should say indexes, not WIMs, because they're indexes within one WIM. Almost there. There we go. And there they are. So we're going to get rid of the core first. You just right click, next. There we go. We're in data center right now. So we'll cut this, put it in standard, paste, and then go back to data center and just click refresh. There we go. Okay. And now we can shorten those names as well. So shorten that name. Oop. 2019 server standard. This one is data center. There we go. And that's fine. So now we can do 2022. Let's do this. Since I've got rename like that, I want to make sure everything is good, right? So this will be just like that. All right, perfect. And now let's open up Server 2022. Same thing. There'll be 4 indexes in this one as well. Next. Next, just like that. It'll probably turn into 3 or 4 videos as we go along. Maybe we'll see. Because I want to make sure that you guys have all the knowledge you need to capture, deploy, update, and then of course the last video will probably be about stigging and security. So making sure these are secure images. If you guys work in any area that requires stigs or secure, secure standards, then I want your ISOs and ISMs to be happy with your work, right? So, okay, so we did this, rename, and what I noticed is all we have to do is like that. Data center, rename, same thing, all the way to here, and cut the standard one, paste it in here, data center, and refresh. There we go. Now we have all 4 of those. We have our application directories ready in both areas. We imported our Windows PE drivers, HP, and we created our selection profile for those drivers. So if we go in and we look at that, it should be set. There we go. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to shut this. Well, not shut. Yeah. I'll shut this down. And then our next video will be on scripting that software. And let's just do shutdown this. And deploying a capture image. All right. Well, I hope you learned something, and I hope this will turn into a series of a lot of videos in the future when you have questions or if you have suggestions. So you all have a good day, and God bless.